The DCU has unlimited potential, and in this video I will be explaining why. Hey everyone, welcome back to our movie news. The DCU has been quite controversial, and I have criticised a lot of the decisions made by the two new co-heads of DC. As many of you will already know, I think they should have done a lot of things differently. Specifically, I think they should have recasted everyone instead of keeping some and not others. However, there is one decision they have made that I massively agree with, and it's the decision that I am incredibly excited by. This one decision, I believe, will massively elevate the DCU over the dying MCU, and will really be able to increase the audience of the new DC universe. When James Gunn announced that the DCU will be telling a story over multiple forms of media, being films, TV shows, animation, and video games, I was thrilled. This was the best decision made by the two co-heads. This will perfectly allow characters to evolve so much more in a much shorter amount of time, meaning that our connections to these characters will be so much stronger than if we just relied on the movies to connect us. It means the character depth will be so much stronger now that there are multiple forms of media. Their stories won't just be about them having to stop the biggest villains taking over the world. Animation and even video games will allow us to get a deeper connection to the characters, as we will be able to explore the smaller stories of these heroes. To build deeper stories and proper emotional connections to the main MCU characters, it took around 11 years. That was where the peak emotion and storytelling hit. With the DCU being able to use animation alongside movies, TV shows, and video games, big characters and small characters will be able to have far deeper character arcs and emotional connections to the audience. For example, if we had an animated Justice League show, the animated show allows us to have smaller moments with our favourite heroes, just like the early 2000s Justice League animated series. But with it being in a cinematic universe and having live action stories being told before and after it, we have this fantastic opportunity to take our time telling smaller stories with some characters we've already seen in live action and some that we will see for the very first time. We can see relationships being built between the League members and maybe see some smaller villains that would never make it in the movies appear in the animated show. It gives us a much better opportunity to explore the smaller parts of the universe, and because it will be through animation, it will be far cheaper and quicker to produce than a live action project, meaning multiple seasons can be produced over multiple years without getting in the way of live action projects. Also, using video games means that we will be able to explore the DCU in a far more interactive way than ever before. If any of you have played the Batman Arkham games or the PlayStation Spider-Man games, you know how much of those cities you can explore and all of the smaller missions you can complete. It gives you a first-person feel into those characters. Now obviously, you don't want to impact the larger DCU story too much through video games, as it's only a small percentage of fans who would play them, but having that extra opportunity to get a bit more of a connection to these characters and being able to explore the world they are in will be so enriching to DC gamers. I really believe the decision to tell the story of the DCU over animation and video games alongside live action films and shows is such a great decision. The best decision that DC heads have come up with. In concept, it sounds like a great idea. The execution, however, is the worry. Personally, I've not liked James Gunn's work for DC, so I'm worried about that aspect of it. However, that is judging Gunn as a director, not a co-head of DC. He's only directing Creature Commandos and Superman Legacy. Other than those two projects, he will just be the co-head of DC, so strictly planning the universe, not writing or directing. And from his work throughout Marvel and DC, his connectivity to other projects and the larger cinematic universe has been very good. He set up the Infinity Stones in Guardians of the Galaxy, which paved the way for Avengers Infinity War, and he tried his very best to make the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker feel connected to the rest of the DCEU, which was difficult with Walter Hamada wanting to forget all about it. Sure, I didn't like the Suicide Squad or Peacemaker, but as for his desire to make sure things felt connected in his projects to the rest of the DCEU, he did as good of a job as he could. He also has a really strong comic book knowledge. He knows a lot about these characters and a lot about the smaller characters who may not be at the focus of most people's minds. So he will be able to integrate those smaller characters into the DCU, and hopefully the filmmakers will make them really popular. Using his vast knowledge of DC combined with producing DCU projects in animation and video games alongside live action films and shows allows a far richer DC universe to happen. One that doesn't ignore the smaller characters, but also allows us to have smaller moments with the largest characters. It's maybe quite difficult to imagine with us not having any DCU projects released yet, or even no animated DCU slate, but try and imagine it with the DCEU. Imagine if after Man of Steel, we got an animated Superman show that showed what Superman was up to in between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. That could have increased our connection to Superman even more if we could explore the smaller stories with him. Or even a Justice League show after the Snyder Cut that showed how the relationship of the League developed. We could have even had the adventures of the DCEU, where every episode followed a different character or group set in the DCEU, and at the end of the season, we see how it all connects together. Things like that would have made the DCEU so much better, and it was such a shame we never got it. But being able to get it with the DCU is something I am very excited about. My connection to the DCEU characters is what I imagine and hope I will have with the DCU characters, but could become so much stronger with DC Studios using animation and video games to help build out the universe. We will no longer have to wait a couple of years to see our favourite characters together again. Animation allows it to be a year down the line, and in the meantime, hopefully, we will have other films and shows to be excited for. Imagine after Batman Brave and the Bold comes out, we get a Batman video game alongside it, and an animated show that shows how the Bat family works together. That to me sounds like a DC fan's dream. The thought of getting something like that makes me so excited for the DCU, which is why I believe the DCU has unlimited potential. The only limit this universe has is the execution, because the idea of using multiple forms of media to tell the story of the DCU will only make this DC universe better. But if the execution is terrible, then it doesn't matter what forms of media they use. It's risky, but I love the idea. Hopefully Gunn and Safran can step up and prove to not only their supporters, but their haters why David Zaslav hired them. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!